going to go to the top left corner, and we have a picture of a grid. Well, you've been using this for many years. You've put points on a grid, and you've done that by having an x coordinate and a y coordinate. Your x was a motion left to right, your y coordinate was a motion up and down. If you were told those motions, you could locate a point. Well, now I'm going to locate that same point, but I'm going to give you a different pair of facts. R stands for radius, so I'm going to hand you a radius. Now what's interesting about that radius is it can be positive or negative. We need to think about that and how does that affect the dot that we draw. And I'm going to hand you an angle, so they call it theta. And once again, you can have a positive angle or a negative angle, and it helps us get ourselves into the quadrant we'd like to be in. Well, it's all new now. Well, with new ways to do it, you have new vocabulary. So the center of a graph used to be called the origin. Now it's called the polar. And the positive x-axis has been very vital to our drawings because it was the initial side whenever we drew an angle in standard position. If we drew a positive angle, we'd swing backwards from a clock. If we drew a negative angle, we were swinging around the circle like a clock swings clockwise. But it never changed. That positive x-axis became our initial side. Our terminal side landed in one of the four quadrants. It was a very important piece of our drawings. It's still very important, but now they have a new name for it. This is now called the polar axis. So in the first part of notes, we need to practice plotting points with this new pair of information. So we're going to slide to the right a little bit, and I'll blow it up for you. Sorry that the background is dark. It came from a PowerPoint, which we no longer have PowerPoints here. So I had to just kind of hard copy this. I'm going to talk about positive angles for a moment, just to get you a feel for this, and then we'll switch to negative angles in a bit here. And I'm going to keep my positive angle acute for you, so maybe a 35 degrees, a 45 degrees, something in quadrant 1. But I want to see how a positive R versus a negative R affect the picture. So here I am sitting in quadrant 1, my theta is acute, he's less than 90 degrees. But he's a positive angle, he has an initial side just where he always did, and he's swinging backwards from a clock, counterclockwise. He's moving in a positive direction. I'm headed towards a quadrant 1 picture. Now we need to pay attention to R. If R is greater than 0, if R is a positive number, we're going to walk towards that quadrant 1 along that line. However, if R is negative, grab your ruler. We're going to extend the line and back him up into quadrant 3. It's the same line. We're just going to walk away from quadrant 1 because R is now less than 0. So let's review what we just said. If R is positive, you walk towards the angle. This happens to be a quadrant 1 angle, so I'm going to walk towards something in quadrant 1. If R is negative, I'm going to stay on that same line, but I'm going to walk away from quadrant 1, which means I'd be walking into quadrant 3. So still, I would suspect this is a little confusing. We need to practice. So we're going to go down to the bottom of the page, and I need to hone in on this picture for a moment. When you grab a Google snapshot of polar graph paper, it's gorgeous. But when you blow it up and put it hard copy, it gets distorted. And no matter what I do, that kind of happens. So you better pay attention to each one. They're not always the same. This guy's going in increments of 10 degrees. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, so on around the circle. So knowing that, we're going to graph A, B, C, and D, and we're going to put letters next to them in the correct spot. All right, let's talk about these concentric circles. Why are they in the picture? Well, R is the number of circles away from the pole. So if my R is 3, as it is in choice A, I'll be walking 3 circles away from the pole. Now, because things are so distorted when you enlarge them, here's my rule of thumb. If I cannot see the circle, it's not a circle. So the first circle I can see is this one. That would be 1 circle away from the pole. This guy would be 2 circles away from the pole, 3 circles, and so on. So each polar paper's different. Now that I got a handle on that, I'm doing more and more investigation of this particular polar paper. I think I'm ready to go here. So here we go. I start with my angle of 60. So I'm going to count up to 60 degrees, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Here's a little teaching advice. Put a little arrow there so your eyeballs know you're on the 60. And then look at your radius. Since my radius is a positive 3, I'll be walking towards that quadrant 1 angle. But I'll move 3 circles away from the pole along that line. So there's 1 circle, 2 circles, 3 circles. So here is A, and I'm going to need to put letter A next to it because otherwise I don't really see the dot. I kind of look for the letter first. All right, let's do all 4 of these together, and I'll change color so they kind of stand out more. So letter B, oh, he's negative 60. So I got to swing negatively. Jared, I hear your voice. What quadrant will that put me in?
Well, since we're negative, we're going to go backwards.
So I'll end up in what quadrant? 1, 2, 3, or 4?
4.
You got it. Remember, each one's worth 10. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Teacher hint, put a little arrow there. Now there's a positive number there, Connor. Can you tell what it is? Because I came down 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Where am I? Can you read that positive number on your paper? That makes total sense to me. Because the whole circle's 360. If I come down if I come down 60, you're right, there's 300 left to go. So I am sitting on the line that has a mark of 300. Now, I have to decide. It's a positive 1 radius. So, Cora, should I back away from this angle or go towards it? Towards it. But I don't move too much. I just move 1 circle away from the pole. So you can barely tell the movement. But I'm right here, and there is B. C gets even worse. C has a nice angle, 10 degrees, but I'm looking at this. Hannah, am I going to move off of the pole?
No.
She says no, because I do not have any radius, it's a 0. So this darn thing just sits right on the pole, and that's my C. 1 more to go as a big group, and then you'll have 3 to do on your own. Here we go. This is the best one. So my angle starts my picture. So I'm at 120. So Jake, what quadrant is that? Okay, so I'm going to swing to 90, and each mark is 10. So 100, 110, 120. Teacher hint, put a little arrow so you can keep your eyes on that line. Now, the radius is negative 5. So do you think I should walk away or towards it?
Away.
Away, Jared says. All right, so now I might need my ruler to kind of travel along that line. Now I'm looking at this. I'm kind of putting my fake line there so I know which one to walk along. And it's kind of interesting, Jay. What's the number I'm on down here? 300 again. So let's see if that makes sense to me. It's straight up 90. I veered off 30 to the left. So it makes sense. I'm going to look at straight down, kind of like a southward motion. I'd veer off 30 to the right. I'd be on the same line. I'd be at 300. But I'm going to come a full 5 circles away from the pole. So this one's easier to see. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 circles is letter D. Any questions? Then let's see how safe you are. So we're going to change to the second page of notes. The top right corner shows this picture. They have an S, an R, and a Q. If you can locate those dots and put those letters, I'll give you time to do that.